Welcome back to Up Front. Wisconsin is taking steps to tighten its security in this year's election cycle. Officials have good reason to be concerned. In 2016, Russian hackers apparently targeted the state's voter database without success. With the primary election now just 3 weeks away, we're talking more about what's being done to secure elections here with Megan Wolf, the Wisconsin Elections Commission Administrator. It's good to have you on the program today.
Thanks for having me.
So about a week ago, you were in Philadelphia, where, among other things, you were briefed, I think, by Homeland Security folks on what to expect in this election cycle. How concerned did they tell you to be about the possibility of foreign influences trying to hack our elections?
So this previous week, I was in Philadelphia meeting with the National Association of State Election Directors. And at that meeting, there was a very strong presence from Homeland Security. The Secretary of Homeland Security herself was actually there and seemed very well briefed and informed on issues that are important to elections. We did not learn any information that changes our course of action as we head into August or November. We feel that we still have the information and the actionable items that we need to address any of the further measures that we need to take headed into the election.
Did they indicate whether or not you should expect that foreign actors will try to hack our elections here?
We did not receive any information along those lines that would have caused us to change course.
Do you have any idea whether, one of the things I've heard over time is that some states say they're seeing, even now, people probing their systems, trying to find out what they can learn. Do you see that on a daily basis, for example, here in Wisconsin?
So every single day, the State of Wisconsin Enterprise, so this is the structure that protects not only the election agency, but all our State of Wisconsin agencies, is our State of Wisconsin Enterprise. And every day they see thousands, if not millions, of people trying to find a way into that system. But it really is a success story in that there haven't been any successful attempts to get into that statewide enterprise. And so that's what we continue to see, that people try to find a vulnerability in our system and they are not successful.
And we think maybe some of these are just businesses who want to access the voter registration database in some way, but some of them may be more nefarious.
They can be from anywhere and from anyone for any real purpose, but the important point is just making sure that they're blocked if they do not have any legitimate business with the state of Wisconsin, which they are.
We mentioned that you're tightening your security even further. Mm-hmm. So what are you doing in this election cycle to make sure our elections are safe and secure?
One of the main things that we continue to do is focusing on training of our local election officials. Here in Wisconsin, we have a lot of them. We administer elections at the municipal level, and we have 1,853 municipal clerks that administer elections, whereas in other states, they do it at the county level, so they may have 50 to 100 county officials. So for us, training those local election officials and making sure that they can build on that benefit they have of having a very local connection with their communities, local connection with their voters, are able to really detect anomalies from a very personal place. That's what we continue to focus on, is that they have that training they need to help us secure elections in every corner of the state.
You're also bringing more people on board to help with election security. What precisely will these people be doing?
We are. So we're working on recruiting for additional positions that are going to help us to even further increase that security. So specifically, we're looking at increasing our monitoring activity. We have logs of every single move that's made in our statewide voter registration system, and we need to make sure that we have people that can analyze those logs, detect anomalies, and also put in flags into our system that help us to identify if something is off kilter even a little bit. So we do that right now very manually, and we're hoping to bring on folks that can help us automate those processes.
It's like another 5 or 6 people who would be doing these kinds of functions?
That's correct, and also that can help us focus on things like training and overall project management, as well as kind of bringing together our IT and our business people in a cohesive way to focus on security.
Let me ask about two facets of election security before we go, and one of them is the notion of post-election audits.
Right.
Are we doing enough to take a look at that? After an election occurs, are we doing enough to look at that?
Right. So we're actually in the process of researching ways that other states are incorporating a more robust post-election audit. We do have post-election audits here in Wisconsin, and they're randomly done throughout the state. We've been looking at other states. Other states have the benefit of maybe all having the same voting equipment. Here we have a variety, which can also be a strength, but it makes it a little more difficult to include some of these processes seen in Colorado and other places. We are researching those, and we do intend to bring a recommendation to our commission at their September meeting about ways that we may be able to expand our post-election audit process.
And you mentioned we have a variety of voting equipment. I know Congressman Kine back in April said he had some concerns that at least some precincts in the state of Wisconsin are using voting machines that could be more vulnerable to hacking. Is that a concern of yours?
Every single piece of equipment that is used in the state of Wisconsin has been certified by the federal government, as well as certified through the state of Wisconsin testing protocol to prove that it is safe to use here in Wisconsin. We also have the added benefit of every single ballot cast here in Wisconsin has a paper trail. So every single ballot that is cast, they either have cast that through what's called an optical scan machine, where you actually have that paper ballot that you cast after it's tabulated, or through what's called a DRE machine, where there is a tape or a receipt that shows exactly how the voter voted, and you're able to verify that count after the fact. And as we saw in the 2016 recount, we were the only state to conduct one, that the totals came out very close to what was tabulated, and that did not impact the results at all.
Megan Wolf is the administrator for the Wisconsin Elections Commission. It's good to have you on the program today. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up next on Up Front, what will it take for another Democrat to break out of the pack of candidates in the August primary?